Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be diving into what's actually being taught in schools across the country from kindergarten all the way up to college, because it's no longer about teaching math, science, history. Now it's about teaching these divisive ideas, such as if you're white, you are automatically racist, America is inherently evil, so is capitalism, and of course, you're a bigot if you don't respect made-up pronouns like they, fair, ze, them. And actually, teachers on the far left tend to focus on that one specifically a lot, and the result is that we're raising very angry and confused kids and young adults who are more focused on those labels than actual life skills. Now, this doesn't just happen in college, though we'll get to that. In kindergarten now, in grade school, you'll often hear to, trust the science, trust the experts, but selectively. For example, they have very strict protocols when it comes to COVID, but when it comes to biology, the differences between men and women, all logic is thrown out the window. Gender is on a spectrum. We need, of course, tampons in the boys' bathroom. That's something that Tim Walz and his wife care deeply about.
If kids are hungry in school, what that does to brain and learning, you're not going to learn to read. So if you're talking about learning to read and closing gaps, then you better take away the barriers for that. If that's tampons, then that's tampons.
So the problem is that we're not getting consistency in education. We're getting an agenda. And when you take a look at the low test scores in our country, and you think to yourself, yeah, we need more DEI, we need more CRT, we need more education about LGBTQ+, you really shouldn't be a teacher. Now, I want to show you this viral video of these children who are sharing their pronouns. They're all wearing masks, and I think it says a lot about our society and what kids are focused on nowadays.
Hello, my name is Ace. I also go by Spade and Alex. A lot of people call me Marshmallow.
Marshmallow.
I use any pronouns except for she, her.
I'm Jinx, I go by they pronouns, and I am Cal's father.
I'm Socks. I am the 8th grade representative of the GSA. I use she, they pronouns.
Hi, my name is Clover. My pronouns change often, but if you don't know, just say they, them.
Now, when schools, whether it be through GSA or regular classroom discussions, start to encourage this level of focus on identities as it pertains to sexuality or gender identity, all that's going to do is confuse kids, create more anxiety about who they really are. Teachers think kids need to know about whether you're she, they, or he, it, whether you want to go by Socks or Marshmallow. Is this school or is this an insane asylum? I don't understand. Instead of equipping students with tools to succeed, like understanding how our government works, knowing where you are on the map, or eventually handling taxes. I don't know. I think these are very important topics, but now class time even is about exploring your identity. You may not know the flags of actual countries, but at least you know what demisexual, demi-boy, demi-tree is. And I want to talk a little bit about the classroom environment and how kids are now dressing. Now, we've talked about things like furries and Therians a little bit on the channel, because we do see video after video now of kids coming to school with tails, animal masks, and of course, kids, adults, if they want to dress up as animals. Okay, that's your choice, right? But keep that at home. That should not be in the classroom. I think that even the furries, right? I've seen some agree with that part. Very good. Glad we agree on something.
How am I going to explain trans people to my kids? Well, I am a TA in kindergarten class, and I explained it to them today. And so they asked me, one of the kids said, "Bernie, are you a boy or a girl?" And I said, "That's a great question. I'm kind of in between."
You could have just said, "None of your business," in a nice way, of course, because it's a kid. Oh, that's not appropriate for, classroom discussion. Call me Miss Bernie, Mr. Bernie, whatever. Spotlight's on them. They've been waiting for this. It's time to talk about their identity. Take it away, Bernie. What did you tell the 5-year-old?
So some people are boys, some people are girls, and some people can be in between, or they can be neither. Most people are boys or girls, and sometimes people switch from one to the other. What? You mean I could be a girl? Yeah, you could be a girl if you wanted to. Right now? Yeah, if you wanted to, you could say, "I'm a girl," and if you wanted, I could call you by a different name and call you she.
The reason that this is not, there's so many reasons why this is not appropriate to talk to a kindergartner about. This is a kindergartner. But one of them is that this idea, oh yeah, of course, you can just turn into a girl. You can turn into a boy. No, you can present as the opposite gender. That's true. And for people who have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria and there's nothing else that they can do, they can choose to transition. Some just socially transition. They try their best to appear as the opposite gender. Some will go down the path of, hormones and these reassignment surgeries. Are you going to explain all of that to a kindergartner? Because just saying, yeah, you can turn into a girl, that's inaccurate because you will never turn into a girl. Again, you can try and look like a girl. To have an actual truthful discussion about this, you would have to talk about all of the negative side effects, right? Of things like puberty blockers, of, hormones, of these surgeries, the irreversible procedures that people are getting now. But you wouldn't do that because this is a child. Yet you feel like it's okay to lie and create this fantasy in a kid's head.
I'm a non-binary, bisexual, learning specialist and teacher. These are the conversations that you're very afraid of. Are you a boy or a girl? I was born a boy. Good question. Back to math though. Are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? I can't answer that. That's personal information. It doesn't have to do with school.
Fantastic. It's not that hard.
Do I call you Mr. or Miss? You could just call me Desmond, but in the end, I can't control what you call me.
Brilliant. I mean, the standards are low, but this is great. Woke teachers, take notes because that was amazing.
I'm a guy who wears makeup. You want to call it non-binary gender fluid? Fine.
I would never call that non-binary or gender fluid because it has nothing to do with your gender. You can put on a ton of makeup and that wouldn't make you a woman. That's the problem with non-binary. This person, they can do whatever they want with their hair, with their makeup, and they're still going to be whatever biological sex they were born as. Now, in their own personal life, they can identify however they want, and that's fine. And if they choose to talk about it online, then we can comment on that because there's this amazing thing called free speech. And I love that this teacher understands that they can't control what the kids call them. And if questions like this come up, you can, dodge them a bit because it's not appropriate for a classroom discussion, especially when we're talking about kids.
And here's the kicker. Kids don't actually care about sexuality. They're not actually going to ask. And if they do, it's pretty simple to tell them that they've overstepped. And that's a personal matter that doesn't have anything to do with school. The indoctrination you're afraid of isn't real. I hope this helps.
So I agree until that last part because the indoctrination is happening. There are plenty of teachers who bring it up on their own, have 1,000 different flags in the classroom because they want to talk about it, and teachers who demand that the kids use their preferred pronouns. Here's a mother talking to the school board.
There is one goal for the educational system. It should be to prepare children to enter careers to be productive members of society. It is not a counseling session. It is not a self-help area. It is not somewhere to find yourself, and we should not be led by the children, for goodness sake. The children are called dependents for a reason. They depend on us who have fully developed brains. You cannot feel your way through life. The fact that we can stand up here and we can brag about all of the wonderful graduations, but we know the statistics. 50% of children did not pass their end of grade tests. What are we celebrating? We have children coming up here telling us how horrible the mental health crisis is. Why? Most of us went to public school. All of our peers are not in mental health crises. We have to ask ourselves, what are we doing to our children? I'm going to say we are discussing things with them that they are not emotionally, intellectually, and morally able to handle. That is what is causing the anxiety. That is what is causing the depression. That is what is causing the confusion. We need our children to be able to be children.
So is homeschooling the answer? Because many parents, they want their kids to learn math, science, history without guilt or hidden agendas or concerns about the kind of media that they're consuming, right? In terms of entertainment, shows and movies.
The way I feel most myself is to go by the name Fred. That's because I'm non-binary, and Fred is the name that fits me best. And I also use they and them, because calling me a she or a he doesn't feel right to me.
Oh, I'm sorry I used the wrong name and pronouns. Thank you for showing me.
That pride flag up high, be true to you.
But there are ways to combat this, such as alternatives to woke kids entertainment, and that's why I want to tell you about Daily Wire Plus. Because one thing I love is that they have Benki, which is a kids streaming platform, which is actually family friendly and entertaining and free of leftist indoctrination. Daily Wire Plus also has an entire library for adults with ad-free, uncensored podcasts and movies and documentaries that are pushing against DEI and woke narratives, which are taking over schools and workplaces. You can even stream Am I Racist, which I've personally seen 3 times times at this point. It is very good and definitely a must-see. So if you're ready to support media that actually shares your values and cares about the future of our kids, then make sure you click the link in my description. You can even use code Misha30 to get 30% off annual memberships. Now let's get back to homeschooling. It's definitely become more popular over the years for a reason. Parents are now witnessing what kids are actually learning, especially after 2020, where, many were on Zoom and parents got to listen in. And many who have the means to actually homeschool their children realize, hey, homeschooling's a great idea. I want my kid learning math and science, not how much they should hate their country or themselves, depending on their skin color or gender.
There are political signs all over RHS about specific races that matter, specific sexual orientations that matter, and specific perspectives that matter. So when I questioned why the equity statement couldn't represent all students, they told me that to even ask that question was outlandish and offensive. When I asked why that was, they told me, quote, "Whites have a pretty good situation right now," unquote. So is that not racism? Disregarding my question merely because of the color of my skin. I've been told by a lot of kids that they just stay silent and adjust their schoolwork to reflect an acceptable opinion to secure a good grade. I've been approached by multiple teachers who have told me in private that they just want to say that they agree with me and they support me standing up, but they can't say it in front of the class for fear of being disciplined by the administration in some way or losing their jobs. There is clearly only one way to think in this district, and that is that they are teaching their kids to shut up if they don't agree.
Aside from the indoctrination, there were a lot of other issues. So, drugs, there's always a lot of drama and fights, both verbal and physical, school threats and drills, so it's not always the best environment. Even so, it gives you a sort of resilience, I would say. Although that's not the only place where you can develop thick skin. But looking at today's education system, right? Not just the indoctrination, the brainwashing, what's happening with the test scores, for example. Things have definitely gotten worse in recent years.
My room does not have a flag. It used to be there, but I took it down during COVID because it made me uncomfortable.
It made her uncomfortable. Now imagine if a student in a classroom with the American flag and the gay flag were to point to the gay flag and say, "That makes me uncomfortable." So what we're seeing happen with instances like that is that, ooh, suspended, that's a bigot, throw them out of school and cancel them. But for some reason we have teachers who are deeply uncomfortable with the American flag. Okay, girl, so leave. I don't really understand this. You are a teacher benefiting from the rights that America gives you, from the freedoms you have here, but it makes you very, very uncomfortable. Okay, if you can't leave, at least tell us where you would like to go, right? In an ideal world, if you had the means, where would you move to? I would love to know this, because people that say that don't often have an answer. If the sight of our country's flag representing unity, freedom, and opportunity is upsetting to you, the issue isn't the flag, okay? It's you.
Time I tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he looks around and he goes, "Oh, that one?"
Okay, great. So this teacher wants the children to pledge their allegiance to the LGBTQIA+ flag. See, the difference is that the American flag represents something that's unchanging, something that connects us as Americans. Some people argue, we already know what country we're in. We don't need the American flag. We don't need to say the Pledge of Allegiance to be constantly reminded of that. Okay, but you need the gay flag? You can't remember that? You can't remember your sexuality? Well, you probably can't, because it changes every 3 seconds. So, okay.
Schools are no longer requiring that kids start the day with the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you think that's okay?
You found the right person to talk to. I was a public school teacher for over 20 years. I tend to lean towards the left in a lot of issues, but with the Pledge of Allegiance, I think it's the one kind of action that our kids could do together. It's almost like, hey, we're in the same club,
We got the POC clubs meant to separate the people of color from the white people, which again, if you're not hearing how messed up and backwards that is, then I don't know what to tell you, but apparently that's for the sake of equality, right? And we can focus on identities, breaking it down and making it more specific and then separating us even further. Or when it comes to something like the Pledge of Allegiance, like the American flag, we can realize that regardless of our differences, that's something that unites us. But I'm starting to get the feeling these people don't actually want unity. They actually want division because they're so special, because everyone's oppressed in a different way. In my time in public school, I have learned I am oppressed as a woman. There's nothing I can do. We live in a patriarchy. So sad. Times have never been worse for women. And if you are a person of color, you are oppressed because you're a person of color. Nothing you can do but go out to these mostly peaceful riots and make your voices heard because things have never been worse, truly. Now let's talk about university. It's gotten to a point where all these college majors, they look like word salads, right? So, gender studies, we know, but they just make things up at this point. Like intersectional, disabled, feminist theory, like you just add in a few buzzwords and suddenly it's a valid academic path. You may remember that viral NYU video. If not, I definitely want to play it because it says a lot about where higher education is headed.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm studying the unseen body in creative spaces, erasure and exposure of the queers. Yeah!
I'm Nunyala. I'm studying living artfully, art as ritual therapy and pathways of decoloniality. Yeah!
I'm Natalie and I'm studying fashion history and gender studies.
Yeah! Hi, I'm Ava and I study woman, fugitive family, relationships, and identity, the transformative black woman.
What did you study? Oh, I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. What did you study? Yeah, I studied erasure and exposure of the queers. It always reminds me of how we were taught in high school that Republicans were less educated. They choose not to go to college because they're dumb. And then when you actually step foot onto a college campus, you know, you start to wonder, maybe there's something to choosing to skip out on this because you can still be a barista without having this debt. I think there's definitely a rise of people choosing to either transfer universities or to take a different path. Now, while politics was a major factor for me, it wasn't something I could really discuss with the people I was surrounding myself with at the time, most of which were on the far left. But picture this for a second, right? I'm there to learn about psychology. Immediately, land acknowledgement, pronouns. We got to go around the class. Everyone has to know everyone else's pronouns. You might think at this point we're gonna be talking about psychology. No, not yet. A documentary about race. So we gotta put in some CRT, a little bit of systemic racism, how America is evil, and then maybe at the end we'll sprinkle in a little bit of psych. Like what we're all there for. And just like that boy was talking about, not everyone is agreeing, but they want a good grade. But like I said, it wasn't just politics. Unless you are set on a career as a psychologist or counselor, or you need college, you know, to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher, you really have to think about if it's worth it, pouring years and a ton of money into a degree that might not have practical value. But what we're seeing with a bunch of these graduates who then struggle to find work, they feel angry and oftentimes are convinced that it's due to the oppression they face related to their identity, instead of realizing they have been set up with unrealistic expectations. So then they go out and protest, destroying property, blaming others, blaming the oppressors.
There's so much trans hate in the world right now, and I'm so done with it. And pride just means that we are unabashedly happy just to be alive.
And where do you personally feel that hate is coming from?
Most places, but especially the government.
And in your own life, where would you say that you feel the hate the most?
I feel like I kind of internalize a lot of the hate, so it feels like it mostly comes from myself at this point.
That anger they feel is real, and it's encouraged by a lot of these leftist professors who think it's okay to openly trash conservatives any chance they get. You can take a look at the video I made right after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and how teachers and professors were going on X and Facebook wishing that the attempt was successful. So when we have these kinds of bloodthirsty adults teaching children, we end up with teens and young adults who are fired up and ready to fight 24/7. And a perfect example is this woman who tore up the Greek flag at a restaurant because she couldn't tell the difference between the Greek flag and the Israeli flag.
Free Palestine, mother. Let me take this down right now. I'm taking this down. You don't support this right over here. There's a genocide. You know that, right? They're killing children. What do you believe? What do you think? What is the purpose of this? What's the purpose?
This is Greek.
What?
That's the Greek flag.
Really?
Greek.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Israel. My bad. Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just a level of ignorance, right? It's a product of an education system that prioritizes activism over actual knowledge. You may not know what you're fighting for, but you have to fight. Now more than ever, we need to return to true education, right? And to do so, we have to first raise awareness about what's actually being taught in schools nowadays. And that way we can and should demand an educational system that prioritizes learning, right? Knowledge over indoctrination. Please let me know what you think about public schools and homeschooling in the comments below. Also remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.